Picture a film so ahead of its time that audiences didn't know what to make of it. Critics called it confusing and slow. Theaters emptied quickly. The studio considered it a disappointment. Today it's hailed as a haunting masterpiece that redefined science fiction forever. Beneath the neon glow and endless rain lie hidden struggles, unscripted brilliance, and secrets buried for decades. From Harrison Ford's clashes with Ridley Scott to secret links with Alien and even The Shining, this film's story is just as mysterious as its replicants. Let's uncover the secrets hidden for decades in Blade Runner. Number 1. The Forgotten Sixth Replicant. A script detail haunted Blade Runner fans for decades. Captain Bryant's briefing mentions 6 escaped replicants, but only 5 ever appear on screen. The math didn't add up, and viewers noticed immediately. The missing replicant was named Mary, cut late in production when her subplot proved too expensive to film. This wasn't a creative choice, but a budget constraint that left a glaring error in the final cut. The production team hoped no one would catch it. Instead, this mistake ignited one of cinema's greatest debates. Fans theorized that Deckard himself was the 6th replicant, using the numerical inconsistency as proof. One simple oversight fueled decades of speculation about what's human and what's not, turning a production error into the film's most enduring mystery. Number 2. Based on a novel but barely. Adapting a beloved book is never easy, but Blade Runner took creative liberty to new extremes. Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep explored deep religious themes, empathy testing, and the moral weight of artificial life. The novel asked profound questions about consciousness and humanity's relationship with creation. Ridley Scott's version stripped away most of those layers. Gone were the empathy boxes, the religious symbolism, and much of the philosophical depth. Scott shifted the focus from metaphysical questions to mechanical noir, creating something entirely different from its source material. Tragically, Dick passed away just months before the film's release. He saw early footage and gave his blessing, recognizing that Scott had created something unique. But he never witnessed his work reimagined into one of cinema's greatest dystopias, or the decades of influence it would command. Number 3. Born from Industrial Nightmares. The world of Blade Runner feels suffocatingly real because it came from memory, not imagination. Ridley Scott didn't invent his dystopia from scratch. He simply remembered home. Growing up in Middlesbrough, England, Scott witnessed industrial decay firsthand. Smokestacks belched toxic fumes into gray skies. Acid rain fell regularly. The air itself felt heavy with pollution and hopelessness. His childhood was spent in a landscape that looked more like the future's end than the present. Those personal memories became the blueprint for Blade Runner's suffocating, neon-drenched world. The constant rain, the industrial fog, the sense of civilization collapsing under its own weight, all of it came from Scott's past. He didn't need to imagine what environmental collapse looked like. He had already lived in it. Number 4. The Millennium Falcon in the Sky. Easter eggs in films are common now, but Blade Runner hid one that connected 2 legendary franchises. Sharp-eyed viewers eventually spotted something impossible among the Los Angeles skyline, a familiar ship from a galaxy far, far away. Visual effects artists redressed a model of Han Solo's Millennium Falcon and placed it among the futuristic skyscrapers. The prop was readily available from Star Wars, so they repurposed it as architectural detail. It was a practical choice that became a playful wink to Harrison Ford's other iconic role. This tiny detail quietly linked Star Wars and Blade Runner in the most unexpected way. Decades before shared cinematic universes became Hollywood's obsession, 2 of science fiction's greatest films were already connected. The Falcon wasn't flying through hyperspace, it was parked in dystopian Los Angeles all along. Number 5. The title that came from another book. The name Blade Runner sounds perfectly suited to the film's dark, sharp aesthetic, but it didn't come from Philip K. Dick's novel at all. The source material was titled Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, a poetic but unmarketable name for a major motion picture. Scott discovered the title in a completely different work, a 1974 story by William S. Burroughs about black market medical suppliers. The term Blade Runner appeared in that obscure novella, and Scott immediately recognized its power. It sounded dangerous, futuristic, and unforgettable. He purchased the rights just to use the title, disregarding Burroughs' story entirely. That branding choice gave the movie its timeless edge, creating a name that would define an entire aesthetic. Sometimes the perfect title is worth buying from a completely different universe. Number 6. Ford and Scott's behind-the-scenes feud. The tension on set was as thick as the film's perpetual fog. Harrison Ford and Ridley Scott clashed constantly throughout production, their visions for the film fundamentally at odds. What should have been a creative partnership became a daily battle of wills. The core disagreement centered on Deckard's identity. Ford believed his character was human, a burnt-out detective struggling with morality. Scott wanted ambiguity, planting clues that Deckard might be a replicant himself. Their arguments grew heated, with Ford reportedly calling the script terrible, and Scott dismissing Ford's concerns. The feud nearly derailed production multiple times. Yet, paradoxically, their uneasy chemistry strengthened the film. Ford's resistance created a performance filled with genuine weariness and doubt. Deckard feels conflicted and exhausted because Ford himself was conflicted and exhausted. The behind-the-scenes war became the character's internal struggle. Number 7. I Want More Life, Father. One of Blade Runner's most powerful moments hinged on a single word, with multiple meanings. When Roy Batty confronts Tyrell, Rutger Hauer's delivery of father carried layers of interpretation that changed with each take. Hauer experimented with different readings. He said father as a plea, as an accusation, and as a statement of relationship. In some takes, he stretched it to farther, making it sound like a desperate reach for more existence. Other takes omitted the word entirely, letting silence speak instead. These variations shaped the scene's meaning profoundly. Was Roy seeking a creator, a parent, or a god? Was he begging or demanding? Hauer's nuanced delivery blurred the line between anger and despair, making Roy's confrontation feel simultaneously like a child seeking approval and a creation demanding justice from its maker. Number 8. Extinct animals everywhere. In the world of Blade Runner, seeing a real animal is rarer than owning a Rembrandt. Rachel's owl, Zora's snake, even the insects. Almost every creature on screen is artificial. This wasn't just a creative flourish, but a reflection of environmental catastrophe. The film suggests that pollution and ecological collapse wiped out most natural species. Real animals became so rare that only the ultra-wealthy could afford them, making living creatures the ultimate status symbol. Everyone else settled for synthetic replacements, perfect imitations of life that once existed. This detail reveals a deeper tragedy beneath the noir surface. The wealthy flaunt artificial life as luxury trophies while the world crumbles around them. Even nature itself has become a commodity, manufactured and sold. The replicants aren't the only artificial beings struggling for authenticity in this dying world. Number 9. Tyrell's Pyramid of Power. The Tyrell Corporation headquarters wasn't designed to impress. It was designed to overwhelm. Rising like an ancient ziggurat above the city's decay, the massive pyramid symbolized godlike power and ambition. Every architectural choice reinforced Tyrell's view of himself as humanity's supreme creator. Scott drew inspiration from Vatican architecture for the building's interior. Vast empty spaces, towering ceilings, and dramatic lighting made visitors feel small and insignificant. The vertical symbolism was deliberate. Tyrell literally looked down on the world from his throne in the clouds. The design mirrored Tyrell's philosophy perfectly. He believed he had surpassed nature, creating life more perfect than evolution ever could. His headquarters felt like heaven perched above Earth's ruins, a temple to human achievement built on top of human failure. Even the building itself argued that some men deserved to play God. Number 10. The Red Eyes of the Machine. A subtle detail sparked decades of debate about who was human and who wasn't. Throughout the film, replicants' eyes occasionally glow with a faint red shimmer. This wasn't computer-generated imagery, but a practical lighting effect created with carefully angled mirrors and beams. The technique worked beautifully to mark artificial beings, until viewers noticed something disturbing. In one brief moment, Deckard's eyes flash red too. The effect appears so quickly that many miss it on first viewing, but once seen, it cannot be unseen. This ambiguous detail became central to the film's greatest mystery. Was it an intentional clue that Deckard was a replicant, an accidental side effect of the lighting technique, or a deliberate red herring to fuel speculation? A simple practical effect became one of cinema's most analyzed moments, proving that sometimes the smallest details carry the biggest questions. Number 11. The tears and rain wasn't in the script. The most iconic moment in Blade Runner almost didn't exist. The script called for Roy Batty's death scene to feature technical jargon about replicant specifications and combat history. The dialogue felt robotic and hollow, listing achievements like a machine reciting data. Rutger Hauer recognized the problem immediately. The night before filming, he rewrote the entire monologue, cutting the mechanical speech down to something profoundly human. He crafted a poetic meditation on mortality that stripped away everything artificial about his character. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain, became cinema's most haunting reflection on impermanence. Hauer's improvisation transformed Roy Batty from villain to tragic hero in seconds, giving the film its immortal soul. A machine's final words became more human than anything spoken by the actual humans, proving that sometimes the greatest art comes from rejecting what's written. Number 12. Deckard's gun weighed a ton. The most realistic science fiction weapon ever created came with a serious drawback. It was brutally heavy. Deckard's iconic blaster wasn't a lightweight prop, but a modified Steyr-Mannlicher rifle. The weapon's bulk made it feel genuinely industrial and dangerous on screen. Harrison Ford complained about the weight between takes, struggling to hold it steady during long shooting days. The gun's heft wasn't a special effect, but a physical burden that affected his performance. Every time Deckard raised his blaster, Ford's exhaustion showed through. That clunky, overbuilt design created one of sci-fi's most believable weapons. It looked like something actually manufactured for brutal efficiency, not sleek Hollywood fantasy. The prop inspired decades of fan replicas and became legendary among collectors. Ford's discomfort became the character's reality, making every gunfight feel weighted with genuine physical struggle. Number 13. Alien technology connection. Ridley Scott quietly built a shared universe decades before Hollywood made it trendy. Sharp-eyed viewers eventually noticed an impossible detail. The same computer display from the Nostromo in Alien appears inside Gaff's flying spinner in Blade Runner. The reused prop wasn't just budget-saving, but a deliberate connection. Both films depict futures dominated by massive corporations that treat humans as expendable resources. The Weyland-Yutani Corporation from Alien and the Tyrell Corporation could easily exist in the same timeline, both profiting from technological advancement while humanity suffers. This subtle detail suggested something ambitious. Scott was building a unified dystopian future across multiple films. Years before cinematic universes became studio mandates, Blade Runner was already expanding Scott's vision of corporate-controlled nightmares. Two of science fiction's darkest films were connected by a single computer screen. Number 14. Kubrick's shining secret ending. The original theatrical ending featured an unexpected collaboration between two legendary directors. After test audiences rejected Blade Runner's bleak finale, the studio demanded something more hopeful. Scott needed footage fast, and he found it in the most unlikely place. Stanley Kubrick had shot beautiful aerial footage of mountains for The Shining that went unused in his final cut. Scott borrowed those pristine shots to create a fake happy ending, showing Deckard and Rachel escaping to unspoiled wilderness. The footage suggested hope and freedom beyond the city's decay. This recycled material nearly changed Blade Runner's entire legacy. The mountains implied survival was possible. That escape existed somewhere beyond the perpetual rain. Later cuts removed this ending entirely, restoring the film's ambiguous darkness. But for years, Kubrick's unused footage shaped how audiences understood Scott's vision. Number 15. The Origami Code Explained. Gaff's paper sculptures weren't random artistic flourishes, but a hidden language tracking Deckard's journey. Each origami figure marked a specific moment in the detective's moral evolution, speaking volumes without a single word of dialogue. The chicken appeared early, mocking Deckard's cowardice and reluctance to hunt replicants. The matchstick man symbolized growth and humanity, appearing as Deckard began questioning his mission. Finally, the unicorn hinted at impossible dreams and implanted memories, suggesting Gaff knew secrets about Deckard that even Deckard didn't know. These tiny paper sculptures created a quiet language of fate and awareness. Gaff was always watching, always knowing, leaving breadcrumbs that revealed how closely Deckard was being monitored. The origami turned simple props into philosophical statements, proving that in Blade Runner's world, even the smallest details carried enormous weight about identity and control. Number 16. The marijuana snake scale. One of the film's most detailed props carried a secret joke that went unnoticed for years. When Deckard analyzes the microscopic snake scale to track Zora, viewers assumed the intricate texture came from sophisticated model making or special effects photography. The art team had a more playful solution. They photographed a piece of cannabis under extreme magnification, creating the perfect alien-looking texture for the artificial snake scale. The organic patterns worked perfectly as synthetic biology, and nobody questioned its origin during production. This hidden detail revealed the obsessive creativity behind Blade Runner's world building. Every frame contained layers of thought and craftsmanship, even when the audience would never consciously notice. The art department's mischievous in-joke became part of the film's visual DNA, proving that sometimes the most elaborate illusions come from the simplest sources. Number 17. The Bradbury Building Legacy. The film's climactic chase sequence took place in one of Los Angeles' genuine architectural treasures. The Bradbury Building, with its ornate wrought iron stairways and soaring glass ceiling, had already appeared in film noir classics like Chinatown. Scott recognized its cinematic potential immediately. The building's Victorian-era design contrasted perfectly with Blade Runner's future noir aesthetic. Its aged beauty suggested a world where the past and future collided, where old structures survived in a decaying tomorrow. The natural light filtering through the glass roof gave the chase a dreamlike, almost spiritual quality. The location became a pilgrimage site for film fans afterward. Scott didn't just use a location, he immortalized it, turning a historic building into cinema's most recognizable vision of beautiful decay. Number 18. The infamous voiceover feud. After confusing test screenings, the studio panicked and demanded a solution. They decided Harrison Ford should narrate the entire story, explaining plot points and character motivations that confused audiences. Ford despised this idea with every fiber of his being. He argued the narration destroyed the film's mystery and treated viewers like children. When the studio refused to budge, Ford employed a different strategy. He delivered his voiceover lines so flatly and unenthusiastically that he hoped they would be unusable, that the studio would recognize their mistake. They used them anyway. The bitter narration became infamous among fans, criticized for decades as the film's weakest element. When later cuts removed the voiceover entirely, Blade Runner regained its haunting ambiguity. Ford's passive-aggressive performance accidentally proved his point. Some stories are better left unexplained, some mysteries more powerful without answers. Number 19. The hidden graffiti message. The film's obsessive attention to detail extended to background elements most viewers would never consciously see. Tucked behind Hannibal Chu's laboratory, Japanese graffiti delivered a pointed political message. Chinese good, Americans bad. This wasn't random decoration, but a deliberate world-building choice. The graffiti reflected Blade Runner's vision of cultural dominance shifting eastward, where Asian languages and influences had become dominant in American cities. Language itself had merged into a fractured hybrid culture. The detail suggested a future where traditional American power had collapsed, replaced by new global hierarchies. Even throwaway background text told stories about economic decline and cultural transformation. Scott filled every corner of the frame with narrative depth, ensuring that even graffiti contributed to the film's vision of a world where identity and nationality had become impossibly tangled. Number 20. Pris and the Vampire Look. Daryl Hannah's unsettling appearance came from cinema's earliest nightmares. Ridley Scott specifically instructed the makeup team to model her look after Max Schreck's terrifying performance in the 1922 silent classic Nosferatu. He wanted Pris to embody contradictions, seductive yet deathly, beautiful yet corpse-like. The pale makeup, dark-rimmed eyes, and stark features created what Scott called a cyberpunk ghost. Pris appeared simultaneously alive and dead, human and artificial. Her appearance made viewers instinctively uncomfortable, even during moments of seeming innocence or playfulness. This visual choice reinforced the film's central theme perfectly. Artificial beauty concealed inner decay, just as the entire city's neon glamour masked environmental and social collapse. Pris became a walking metaphor for Blade Runner's world, something designed to be perfect that instead inspired unease. Number 21. The driver is armed world building. Every detail in Blade Runner told a story about society's collapse, even the background props most viewers never consciously noticed. Public transportation buses displayed warning decals that read, "Driver is armed," a casual acceptance of violence that spoke volumes about daily life. This tiny detail revealed how normalized danger had become. The sign wasn't dramatic or shocking within the film's world. It was just another safety notice, like emergency exit or no smoking. The casual warning suggested that attacks on drivers happened frequently enough to require permanent signage. Scott filled each frame with these grim touches of realism. Background objects became subtle warnings of a paranoid, collapsing society, where violence was so common it required bureaucratic labeling. The world building happened in margins and corners, creating an atmosphere of constant low-level threat. Even mundane public services needed weapons to function. Number 22. The Missing Months Explained. For years, fans complained about an apparent continuity error in Roy Batty's timeline. His death seemed to arrive too quickly, as if weeks of his 4-year lifespan had mysteriously vanished. The math didn't work, and viewers demanded explanations. Ridley Scott later clarified what many had missed. Blade Runner's story doesn't unfold over days, but spans roughly 2 months. The film's events stretch across weeks, with time passing between scenes in ways the editing doesn't explicitly announce. Roy's countdown wasn't rushed. Viewers simply misunderstood the timeline. This revelation fixed the supposed error while adding deeper meaning. The film's structure mirrors human life itself. Time passes faster than we realize. Moments blur together, and suddenly, the end arrives. Roy's desperate fight for more life becomes even more poignant when you understand how quickly his remaining time actually slipped away. Number 23. The comic that beat the movie. Marvel's comic adaptation created an unusual problem. It hit shelves before the film reached most theaters. Readers discovered Roy Batty's fate, Rachel's true nature, and the ambiguous ending weeks before seeing them on screen. The comic accidentally became a massive spoiler for the actual movie. Despite its rushed pacing and compressed storytelling, the artwork captured something essential. The comic immortalized Blade Runner's visual aesthetic in static images, translating the film's neon-soaked atmosphere into bold panels and dramatic shadows. For early fans, the comic became their first entry point into Blade Runner's universe. It existed as a parallel version of the story, cruder but uniquely valuable. The adaptation proved the world could survive translation across media, that the film's power wasn't just cinematic, but something deeper that could live in multiple forms. Number 24. The 7 Cuts of Blade Runner. Few films exist in as many official versions as Blade Runner. Over decades, 7 different cuts emerged, each reshaping the story's meaning. The original theatrical release included the infamous voiceover and happy ending that Scott despised, but the studio demanded. The 1992 director's cut removed the narration and false hope, restoring ambiguity and darkness. International versions contain more violence. A work print version surfaced with temp music and unfinished effects. Finally, in 2007, Scott released the final cut with complete creative control. He restored visual details, fixed continuity errors, and crafted his definitive vision. Scott fought for decades to reclaim his film, proving that sometimes the original creator's vision requires a lifetime to fully emerge. Number 25. The world that outgrew its film. Blade Runner's influence didn't end in theaters. It became a blueprint for entire generations of storytelling. The film's visual language defined cyberpunk aesthetics, neon-lit rain, corporate megastructures, technology intertwined with decay. Every dystopian future that followed borrowed from Scott's vision. Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049 continued the story decades later, exploring themes of memory and creation with the same philosophical depth. Even Soldier, a 1998 film written by David Peoples, was confirmed to exist in the same universe, expanding the timeline in unexpected directions. The film transcended its medium entirely. Video games, novels, fashion, and music absorbed its aesthetic. A once-failed film evolved into something larger than cinema itself, a cultural touchstone that keeps asking the same questions about identity, technology, and what makes us human. More than 40 years later, Blade Runner still feels like both a warning and a dream. Every frame hides a question about memory, morality, and the cost of creation. Once dismissed as a box office disappointment, it became one of cinema's most studied and revered works. Its secrets, technical, emotional, and existential, still ripple through modern storytelling. From the forgotten sixth replicant to Rutger Hauer's improvised poetry, from Harrison Ford's rebellious voiceover to the 7 different cuts, Blade Runner proved that flawed productions can birth perfect art. If you enjoyed uncovering the mysteries of Blade Runner, remember to like and subscribe for more hidden film history. Tell us in the comments, which version of Blade Runner do you believe is the definitive one?